Data shows global conflict surged in 2024. Conflicts have doubled over 5 years, according to a report published by Armed Conflict Location and Event Data. The world saw a staggering surge in conflicts over the past year. At least 233,000 people were estimated to be killed in conflicts in 2024, according to new data released Thursday by a prominent nonprofit analysis and crisis mapping project. The data, released today by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data, ACLED, shows in raw numbers how the level of conflicts around the world have doubled over the past 5 years, amid wars in Ukraine, Gaza, Myanmar, and elsewhere. Among the data for this year, ACLED found that the number of people killed in conflicts in 2024 had grown by 30% since the preceding year, from 179,099 deaths in 2023 to 233,597 in 2024. The war in Ukraine was the deadliest in 2024, with 67,000 reported deaths, while 35,000 deaths were reported in the Palestinian territories of Gaza and the West Bank. By the end of the year, the number of acts of violence recorded by ACLED is projected to reach almost 200,000, a quarter higher than last year and double what it was 5 years ago, with sharp increases found in Lebanon, 958%, as Israel staged a large-scale military intervention, and Russia, 349%, which has seen more attacks amid its ongoing invasion of Ukraine. The violence has remarkable reach. 1 in 8 people worldwide were exposed to conflict in 2024, ACLED found. Those living within 5 kilometers or less of conflict count as exposed. Palestinians face the highest level of violence in the world, according to the data, with 81% of the population exposed to conflict. The peak may still be ahead. Cleonard Raleigh, a professor of political geography and conflict at the University of Sussex and founder of ACLED, said that she expected global conflict to continue its rise, pointing to possible violent surges in Iran, Chad, Ecuador, and Pakistan. The world may be entering a new normal of conflict, said Paul Post, a professor at the University of Chicago who tracks global violence and was not involved in drafting the ACLED report. That would have political implications in the United States, where President-elect Donald Trump has repeatedly pledged to stop war. Trump claimed that he is going to solve all of these conflicts as soon as he enters office, if not before, Post said. Indeed, it stood out to me that during his victory speech on election night, the first thing he mentioned was ending all of the world's conflicts. The data over the past few years paints an unsettling picture. Few regions saw a decline in conflict, while both Europe and the Middle East saw major escalations. Research by other groups describes the same trend. This summer, a report put out by the Sydney-based Institute for Economics and Peace identified 56 active conflicts taking place at that time, which it said was the most since the end of World War II. The founding hope of the United Nations international peace is an increasingly distant prospect as the trend builds over consecutive years. High levels of conflict worldwide have multiple and complex causes, including choices made by world leaders, such as Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to invade Ukraine in 2022. But there have also been global shifts in the way that conflicts are fought, according to the data collected by ACLED. In 2024, conflict became more urbanized and concentrated, and the same places and communities have been attacked several times over, Raleigh said, adding that the world had seen a 300% increase in the use of bombing over the past 5 years. The widespread use of missiles, drones, and explosives by governments has added further to the levels of conflict, Raleigh said. Some conflicts appeared to be tied to electoral politics, according to the ACLED data, with countries that held elections seeing a more significant rise in violence. Roughly 80 countries, together holding more than half of the world's population, held national elections in 2024. The conflict data tracks incidents of what the authors call political violence, defined to including battles, bombings, and other violent acts, and excludes nonviolent protest. ACLED notes, it also recorded more than 143,000 protests in 2024. The ongoing breakdown in global order and rising multipolarity, a world system in which power is more widely distributed, with global bodies such as the United Nations Security Council paralyzed, has led to major powers asserting their regional influence and undermining one another, Post said. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres described the state of affairs as a purgatory of polarity in an address to the General Assembly in September. ACLED, which has operated as a nonprofit for just over a decade, collects its data through media monitoring as well as partnerships with international and local organizations. It aims to give a big picture view of trends in armed conflict through the collection of granular, detailed data. In the year ahead, some of the conflicts could ease, particularly the war in Ukraine and fighting across in the Middle East. Some countries, like Madagascar, have seen a prolonged decline in political violence over recent years, according to ACLED. But ACLED is predicting a 20% increase in conflict next year amid numerous regions of concern, including Colombia and Mexico, along with several areas of Africa like the Sahel and the Great Lakes region. The Middle East remains in a period of great uncertainty, while the risk of new wars involving China or Russia cannot be ruled out. This year might be a peak, but 2025 could still be well above the post-Cold War average, Post said. Notice also that the potentially biggest conflict of all, a war over Taiwan, remains a possibility and could actually become more likely.